Hello, and welcome back to the Green Heart Wellbeing podcast. I was delighted with relaunching again last week. I think so far between YouTube and like podcast platforms, there was like 41 downloads. I'm absolutely delighted. So thanks for listening. I hope there was some value in the last episode for you. So this one, 5 things I wish I knew before leaving teaching. So again, like always, I'm checking my notes here. So if you see my eyes going off to the side, that's what I'm doing. That's if you're watching it. The other thing that I wanted to mention just before I share 5 of the things I wish I knew before leaving teaching is on the podcast. If you download it from Apple or Spotify or anything, there's a little button where you can click and say send us a message. So if you ever want to like comment, chat, suggest anything, click that. I would absolutely love to hear from you, because there's no point in me just babbling on and hopefully sharing. I'm hoping that I'm sharing things that are useful, but if I don't, like, let me know. But also, if you've got any experiences that you think are relevant that you want to share, yeah, I'd love to hear from you. So when I have a look at all the stats and things like that from the podcast, the most popular episodes are always or the ones at the top that have had the most downloads is I've handed in my notice at school, fear around leaving teaching, and New Year. If you're thinking about leaving teaching, this is for you. So it's interesting to me to just kind of keep an eye on that. But obviously, there are loads of people who are really happy within their job. And again, some of the well-being things that I talk about here can be applied to your life, like while you're still in teaching, or you might be in a corporate job or whatever it is. So it's not necessarily, it's just interesting to keep an eye on the episodes that are most popular. So that's why I kind of went down this route with the second episode. So often when I meet old colleagues that I used to work with, or catch up with friends even who are thinking about doing the same, changing career or anything like that, they ask me like, oh, what do you wish that you'd have known before you did it? So I thought that this episode might be pretty useful. So 5 things I wish I knew before leaving teaching. So I'm gonna share them and then maybe talk for a couple of minutes just about each. So freedom is the first thing. I mean, because of the nature of the work that I was going into, I was going to work in a wellbeing centre, and now working on my own thing. Even payment is a very different model from the school structure. So obviously working in a school, you've got a steady salary, and the thing is as well, you're so structured. So there was a real freedom, a real sense of freedom when I left teaching. But what I came to recognise over time is that it was like one extreme to the other. It's like, I don't know, when you're younger and you were finally allowed to go into the city centre or get the bus by yourself or something, it's like you want it so much, but when it happens, sometimes there's maybe a wee voice in your head that's like, oh, okay, you have to do this, or this might be a wee bit scary. So I think I swung one end to the other, having every single second of my day structured, timetabled from the minute I got up, even the morning routine, getting ready. Some of you teachers that are listening will know this, and like there'll be people who lay all their clothes out for the week on the Sunday so they can save some time in the morning. I never did that. I was pretty useless at being organised. But in terms of like, I would get up at the same time and be in the shower for more or less the same amount of time, and do everything in the same order, get to work, So then even after work, constantly thinking about work. So then on the opposite side, it was really like I was able to plan my own time. I was able to not have to tell anyone when I would be into the wellbeing centre or not. Or even now, one step further, like when I'm just working basically in my own business, it's like I don't have to tell anybody anything really. Like, so it's from like one extreme to the other. But then what I realized was, not having any routine, the days started to kind of slip away from me. So because I was really enjoying, and totally honestly as well, like my nervous system, I guess, was taking us some time to like reset. So I think it was an important time, but I realised not having a routine and not having much structure the days kind of started to drift away a wee bit. So the lesson there was, when you, or if you do change career, or what I wish I'd have known is maybe spent more time planning and organizing the days. I mean, I was full of big ideas, like I'll go to yoga every morning, I'll do this, I'll do that. Anyway, that never happened, obviously, but one of the things that did happen was I adopted my dog Teddy, and then he became part of my routine. So eventually I was able to build more of a routine. Even now, since after the summer, I'm definitely a lot more structured around how I work, how I do admin, how I do clubs, different things like that. So when the clubs all get signed up, hopefully next week and the following week, again, I'll start planning my week around the places that I need to be during the day. So yep, freedom without structure. I wish I'd have known that, how important it was to kind of really plan how my days were going to look. Whereas I think I was just, if you imagine Mel Gibson on his horse in the movie Braveheart just screaming freedom, like that's the way I ran into it at one point. So that's something I wish I knew. Okay, the second one, now I think this is probably an important one for most people when we think about it, is finances matter. So lots of people always say to me, it's the money, I just can't give up the secure salary. Totally get that. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible. It's just being so used to earning in such a certain way, it can be really scary to almost go to the unknown. But that's where the lesson is. It's like really projecting and managing finances for further down the line. So something that I was really lucky with was, first of all, I've always been pretty good with money since I was younger. I think my first job was when I just turned 13, when I was working in a baker's. I don't think you could do that now, but back then I was. And that's when I would always, I started to have my own money, and I saved up and bought things that I wanted. So I've always been pretty good with it. But I thought, there was one point where some of my friends, my close friends, when I had said that I was thinking about leaving, I was talking about the savings that I had, the gratuity, which is, if you're not in the UAE, it's like your kind of end of service bonus, if you like. It's like a percentage of your salary. And my friends were saying, Ashley, you've got enough. Like, if you want to do it and you've got this amount, like, it's fine. So basically, I would say, obviously, like I was saying, the teaching's a stable income. Leaving, I knew it was going to be irregular. I didn't actually comprehend, or maybe that's not the right word. I didn't expect how unpredictable the income would be. So I think I went in with really rose-tinted glasses thinking, oh, well, I'm a coach now. Like, my books will be full. I'll have loads of caseload. I'll have loads of clients. And it was only the clubs and groups that came after, when I never really had as many clients as I wanted to have. So I think have a buffer amount. For example, it's up to you what makes you feel comfortable. If you had, say, 3 months worth of money, that means that if you never earned a penny, you would still pay your bills, rent, food. You might want 6 months, you might think of a year, something like that. And also, you have to do this in advance. Like, I think I'd worked out my finances and everything like a year or so before I'd handed my notice in, So know what your minimum amount is and what your maximum, or what you can spare to that jump in life, if that makes sense. I think what I'm trying to say is, you really need to have your finances in order, so that you've got something to buffer. If you don't find the job that you want, or your company doesn't take off immediately, or, so there's different ways around it. But I think I kind of knew it before I left teaching, but I think it really hit home after I left teaching. Okay, number 3, I wish I knew maybe how isolating at times it could be. So, of course, when you're in the schools or office or whatever, you're surrounded by people all the time. Like, primary teachers will know, especially, like, you're sitting at your desk, which is a rarity in itself. But even if you were sitting down for 2 minutes to respond to an email, there'd be at least 3 children that would come up and speak to you about something. I can't find my pencil, so-and-so spilled their water bottle, I need to go to the toilet, like whatever it is. So you were around other energy constantly. There was just people around all the time. So I never really had much time to get to the staff room because it sounds silly, but it was a few minutes walk from where my classroom was. And because we had such a short break time, it was like sometimes you'd end up just staying in your own kind of little unit. But people, obviously, if you're working in schools and offices, there might be the staff room time where you spend time with other people. So there's people around you quite often. When I left and went to the Wellbeing Centre, it was also nice because there was people around, but not as consistently, because obviously there was lots of other clinicians and coaches, so they were kind of like in and out of their sessions, so it would be in passing that you would see them. And also maybe if you are an expat and you've got like groups of friends and they are all still within education and you're not, you know, so you feel a wee bit out the loop. So I'm a kind of introverted person anyway, and I like my own company, probably sometimes too much, but I think I don't know if I'd prepared for that properly, you know. So I was lucky in the sense that I always kind of had a big network in terms of well-being. But something I think that was really valuable was making sure to retain connections between like old friends and then also making new friends. So I'd say before you leave teaching, prepare for the possibility that there could be some isolation. I probably find it more now, to be honest, because I'm a bit of a homebody. Like I'll often do work at home and then I'll realise like I've not spoken to anybody today. So I'll phone a friend or I'll need to go out or whatever. But another thing I've started doing since I've come back after the summer is going to a cafe and working from there, which is really nice because obviously in Dubai there's so many friendly people around, but also again just being around a different energy can really help. I think I touched on this one in the last episode. So number 4, written identity shift. So I've met 2 friends already this morning. One that I hadn't seen for ages and one that's actually just left teaching. And this is something that we started talking about, teaching, and that teacher I was a huge part of my identity. And this is one that I completely wasn't prepared for after I left teaching. I was like, I'm no longer that person. Like I still have elements of myself, you know, that were always present with the children and things like that. But this whole mindfulness green and like this part of my personality that seemed to take over my whole life, it was like, oh, you know, there's more to you. There's actually other parts. And yeah, so that was one that kind of took a wee while to get used to and really kind of forced me to look back at myself, you know, like look at who I am again and really dig a bit deeper into that and learn more about myself, you know, without this. Sometimes I'm sure other teachers will identify with the fact that it can be so consuming that, you know, almost a lot of your life is absorbed by your work. So it's preparing for that whole chunk to be changed or gone. So yeah, I'd say like what I learned from that was just how much of myself I'd put into my work, but also it was really a nice exploration to be like, right, who am I now? How do I want to show up in the world? Do I have more freedom to say and be more of who I am, you know? So I think it's definitely an important one to think about before leaving teaching. I don't think I was prepared for the evolution of myself, which has been a good thing, but I just never expected it, I think. Now, this is a big one, number 5. So another thing I wish I'd known before leaving teaching is like everything takes time. So again, this is something I touched on with my friend this morning. It's like when I was working in education, it was like a million miles an hour, just non-stop, one thing after the other, like just no respite. It's just like constant. So when I got to the Wellbeing Centre, there was a lot of me that was like, right, let's go, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that, let's do that. And I was speaking earlier on, I was thinking about like, I had a class full time in a really high performing school, I did my master's degree, I published 2 books, made my cards, like my positive psychology cards, and spoke at loads of conferences, created loads of resources, stuff like that. And I look back now and I'm like, there's absolutely no way in God's green earth I could do something like that again. And I know I was younger then as well. I mean, that's not really that important, but still, it was just, I don't think I could put myself into that amount of stuff at one time. So it took me a while to kind of decompress from that and realise that actually, if I want to build up my coaching caseload, it's different now. I'm going to have to wait and allow the growth to happen, not just professionally and like what I know about it, but and learning more and continuing to deepen your practice. But I mean, as in not being as busy and not like, you walk into school and then you've got the 24 kids are handed to you and that's your class and that's it for the year. Whereas I think I knew what it was going to look like when I got to the Wellbeing Centre. Again, in this jump, I thought I knew running my own thing, my own business, what it would look like. But again, I've really had to take time to kind of remind myself that growth takes time. And this is where Green Heart Wellbeing, I wanted nature and the thought of nature and lessons in nature to be a huge part of it, because everything in nature takes time to grow, So it can be messy, experimental, slow, disheartening. Since I've come back, I've had one wobble, which was a couple of days ago. It's like, you get one email from a school that are like, oh, we've already sorted our clubs for this term. And I'm like, kick myself because I should have emailed them before summer. And then I have to remind myself, like, these are all, like I talked a lot about last week, these are all little seeds. Be patient, let things grow, let things be organic. So yeah, that was a thing. Growth takes time. So, if you do make a leap or you're thinking about it, then it's like accepting that whatever you're doing on the other side, it might take a wee while to get used to it. You might have to learn more if you're going to work in a different industry, or you're starting your own thing. It's like there's a lot of growth that happens personally and professionally. And also there was these couple of little things that never actually made the list as such, but I wanted to mention them. Wellbeing doesn't fix itself. That's something that I've always talked about when presenting about wellbeing. It's something that you have to continuously nurture. So what supported my own wellbeing changed from what it looked like when I was in school. For example, I did go to yoga before I adopted Teddy. I was talking about this earlier as well. But now I'm like, okay, so you need to start fitting it back into your routine, because I know that I feel really well physically and mentally when I do yoga. So it's just making sure that you adapt wellbeing practices to your new way of being. Another thing is you might actually grieve aspects of teaching, like missing the kids, the purpose, the rhythm, the structure even, be prepared for that. Like, to be honest, I wouldn't say that there's a huge amount that I grieve, because I still feel really lucky that I get to work with children, but now it's literally that. I get to work with the kids on the things that I find most important, teaching them about positive psychology and well-being. But there might be things that surprise you that you don't expect to grieve. And this is an important one. You don't need to have everything figured out before you leave. Progress is messy. And yes, of course, there are tricky times and panic times and wobbles and whatever. But, if it's something that's in your heart and there's something on the other side of that you want to take a leap towards, and you know that it's going to be something that you'll love, then you don't have to have everything figured out before you go. You'll find a way. So 20 minutes, I'm doing better this week at my time. So this one, those are the 5 things I wish I'd kind of thought or considered a little bit more before leaving teaching. So yeah, I just wanted to share them with you. So if you're thinking about leaving teaching, or you're thinking about a career change, or maybe you're at a place, and I had one friend I met in summer who was like, I want to do something alongside teaching that will maybe take over one day, but I don't know what it is yet. What you can do is have a think about what might that look like if there was no barriers in the way. What would I want to be doing? and take one step towards that. You know, like if you, I don't know, my friend that I just mentioned, she went and did a hairdressing course in terms of like learning how to put hair up. And now she's had bookings already, like at the weekends for evenings and proms, like that kind of stuff. No, not proms, I think was it a wedding trial or something? Can't remember, I need to check. But she's definitely had a couple of people book in already. And I'm like, see, like a few weeks before that, she'd been saying, oh, I wasn't so sure what she wanted, what extra things she could be doing. So I love that. So if you just think about what might it look like if there was no barriers, and what's one little thing I could do to take a step towards that. So yeah, let me know. Press that wee button that says send a message and tell me. Also, last week I had friends like tell me what their seeds were through WhatsApp and whatever, and I love that. So if you're someone that's my friend and you know me, I want you to also keep doing that. Like I want to know so I can share more of it next week. Okay, thank you so much.